Now, it's important to remember that in 2017, they began a campaign to convince people not to vote
in Venezuela.
In the
The Socialist Party won 20 of the 23 governorates, and Chile goes to a second round of elections.
They're calling low turnout of 41%, comparable to the Chilean presidential election turnout.
In Haiti,
and
2 of
over
the 17 missionaries kidnapped on October 16th by an armed gang were
They're ignoring the
released.
fact that part of the reason is that the right wing demobilized its own electorate. And so now they've come back into the elections. It looks like they haven't been able
The
to
leaders of
reconvince
China
them
and the
to come out and
Association of
vote for
Southeast
candidates
Asian
which,
nations
after all,
agreed to deepen
supported
cooperation to
the
help the
United
region
States
recover
government's
from the
embargoes,
COVID-19
which the
pandemic.
Center for Economic and Policy Research blames on at least 40,000 deaths in Venezuela. So for now, it looks like the Bolivarian project is stronger than ever.
From the headquarters of TeleSUR report, we expect more from you in the upcoming missions. Now we continue. The Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro Moros, expressed his congratulations. The regional and local elections were held this Sunday in Venezuela, with the United Socialist Party of Venezuela winning 20 of the 23 governorships in dispute. To know more details about the results and the outcomes, we go with our correspondent Brian Muir for more on the ground information.
Control of 20 of Venezuela's 23 mega elections. The mayor's office of millions of people come out and vote, which is Caracas. 3,082 the conservative coalition, MUB, Movimento União Democrática, has voted. And there's a few takeaways from the experience. I spent the day yesterday visiting different polling centers, watching people vote, witnessing the transparency and the efficiency of the Venezuelan election process, which should be used as a model for countries all around the world.
Last night,
as the results came in, it became clear that the ruling PSUV party was going to make gains. It picked up 3 state governors' offices. Now it has control of 20 of Venezuela's 23 states, plus the mayor's office of the capital district, which is Caracas. The conservative coalition, MUB, Movimento União Democrática, has boycotted the last 3 elections. This was their first time back, and it looks like their strategy backfired. They were able to pick up only 2 governors' offices. Now, it's important to remember that in 2017, they began a campaign to convince people not to vote in the elections. So even though the international media is complaining about what they're calling low turnout of 41%, comparable to the Chilean presidential election turnout and over 10% above what the turnout was in the last Venezuelan election, they're ignoring the fact that part of the reason is that the right wing demobilized its own electorate. And so now they've come back into the elections. It looks like they haven't been able to reconvince them to come out and vote for candidates which, after all, supported the United States government's embargoes, which the Center for Economic and Policy Research blames on at least 40,000 deaths in Venezuela. So for now, it looks like the Bolivarian project is stronger than ever.
Thank you, Brian, for this report. We expect more from you in the upcoming missions. Now we continue. The Venezuelan president, Nicolás Maduro Moros, expressed his congratulations for the victory of the Socialist Party of Venezuela in the regional and municipal elections.
Head of the National Electoral Council. Now we see the results, product of an effort from the 24 federal entities of the country and the patriotic poll, the revolutionary force. We have won 21, including the capital of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. Out of 24, 21. Good triumph, good victory, good harvest. This is a product of work, product of a persevering work, of taking the truth, righteousness to all the communities.
The Vice President of the United Socialist Party of Venezuela, Diosdado Cabello, stated the turnout at the November 21st regional and local elections gave a great lesson to those who anticipated instability and violent events during the day.
First of all, I want to express our joy of what happened today nationwide, that Well, those who expected a disaster to happen in Venezuela were disappointed because they received a great lesson. They received a great lesson. They can now tell all the stories they want, but they have no excuses.
In the meantime, the Venezuelan Minister of Interior, Justice and Peace, REMIGIO CEBALLOS, pointed out that all institutions work together to guarantee all Venezuelans could exercise the right to vote.
We send our congratulations to everyone, the armed forces, public security agencies, the public prosecutor's office, and all judicial institutions, and we will continue. We remain on high alert, working to ensure a successful conclusion and supporting the Strategic Operational Command in all the requirements that may arise.
The Secretary General of the Bolivarian Alliance for the Peoples of Our America People's Trade Treaty, SASHA LLORENTI, present in the country as an international observer, highlighted the broad turnout in the electoral process of November 21st.
We are here as international observers under the invitation of the National Electoral Council, and throughout the day we have visited many voting centers, and we've seen not only a wide turnout but also a civic spirit, typical of the democratic consciousness of the Venezuelan people who are celebrating their 29th election in the last 2 decades. This, of course, also calls our attention because it not only demonstrates that the Venezuelan electoral system is one of the most reliable and secure, but it also becomes an example for the world.
Several leaders in the region, such as the Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel Bermúdez and the Bolivian head of state Luis Arce Catacora, congratulated the Venezuelan people and their institutions that, once again, bet on overcoming their political differences through democratic means, at the polls banishing all kinds of foreign interference. We acknowledge the work of the observers who accompanied this process. Now we move on to other topics. In Chile, the presidential candidates José Antonio Kast and Gabriel Boric will go to the second round of elections of December 19th. According to the Electoral Service of Chile, CEBALLOS, so far the ultra-right-wing José Antonio Kast leads the electoral panorama by obtaining about 28% of the votes, while his rival, the candidate of the Apruebo Dignidad coalition, Gabriel Boric, represents almost 26% of support in the polls. In this sense, CEBALLOS indicated that the percentage of scrutiny corresponds to 98.91% of a total of 46,887 tables scrutinized. For these general elections, more than 15 million Chileans were eligible to vote, and 70,000 of them did so from abroad. The presidential candidate, José Antonio Kast, thanked the agreement obtained with the Christian Conservative Party within the framework of forming political forces to return peace to Chile.
A party that has also played throughout all of Chile to the Christian Conservative Party that allow us to raise an agreement that will let us have senators, have deputies, who together with other political forces could be a majority that return peace, order, justice and hope again to Chile. Thanks for supporting this project.
Also, the Chilean presidential candidate, Gabriel Boric, thanked all the citizens that went to vote and highlighted that Chile can be a worthy country for all Chileans.
I thank the trust of the thousands of Chileans, of young people, not so young for this mandate to lead this historical moment. I thank everyone who made it possible, that we are here today, that it has not been easy. Tonight, disputing a second round that will be historic, and for which we are proud that this generation is rising up to tell Chile that it can be different, that it can be fair, that it can be a country worthy for everyone.
We'll take a short break now. Join us again after this. Welcome back. In Argentina, a young man was killed and another was seriously wounded by lead bullets in the middle of the siege suffered by a Mapuche community in the province of Rio Negro. Thousands of people gathered in the center of El Bolsón to condemn the events that took place in the Mapuche Kem-Kem-Triu community. According to some versions, 2 people dressed in civilian clothes entered the recovered territory guarded by police officers and opened fire on members of the community. Elias Garay died on the spot, while Gonzalo Cabrera was seriously wounded and is currently hospitalized. Let us remember that the police of Rio Negro have been besieging the community for 52 days, preventing the entry of supplies to the territory. The Colombian President Iván Duque and his Ecuadorian counterpart Guillermo Lasso met this Sunday in Ecuador to discuss security issues and other issues of bilateral interest. The heads of state announced the reopening of the land border between the 2 countries, closed since mid-March 2020 as a measure to combat the spread of COVID-19. For his part, Lasso thanked his counterpart for the transfer acknowledged to confront drug trafficking and criminal gangs. Also, both presidents stressed their environmental commitments at the COP26 in Glasgow. In Haiti, 2 of the 17 missionaries kidnapped on October 16th by an armed gang were released. The Haiti police and the Christian aid ministers announced that they could not provide or confirm the names of those released. The reasons for their release, where they are from, or their current location. The group of 16 United States citizens and 1 Canadian was kidnapped on October 16th by the 400 Mawozo gang east of the capital of Haiti, Port-au-Prince. This Sunday marked the 37th day in captivity. Sources close to the clergy said that no ransom was paid and that the hostages are 2 adults who were released due to illness. In the United States, at least 5 people died and more than 40 were injured after an SUV ran over a crowd gathered for a Christmas parade in the city of Waukesha, Wisconsin. Among the victims were children, band musicians, and dancers who were participating in the regular parade that formally kicked off the Christmas season. According to information provided by the local police force, the incident occurred just minutes after the activity began, when the driver of a red pickup truck accelerated, breaking the security barriers. The authorities indicated that there is a person of interest in custody.
The vehicle struck more than 20 individuals. Some of the individuals were children, and there were some fatalities as a result of this incident. We will not be releasing information on fatalities at this time while we are working on notifying the family members of the deceased.
The City of Waukesha Fire Department and its partners in Mavis transported a total of 11 adults and 12 pediatric patients to 6 area hospitals. We do not have any specifics on the injuries at this time. All of the patients were transported. There were some fatalities. We do not have any detailed information on the fatalities at this time.
The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and his Lebanese counterpart Abdullah Abu Habib held bilateral talks in Moscow on Monday. The ministers discussed top regional and global issues, including the country's ongoing economic and social crisis, ways to strengthen trade and economic partnership, as well as developing humanitarian relations and bilateral cooperation in trade, economy, culture, and education. Both countries have increased ties over the past few years as Russia develops a growing geopolitical interest in the region and develops gas pipelines in the eastern Mediterranean. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko said the European Union is refusing to discuss the fate of 2,000 asylum seekers wishing to go to Europe and stranded in Belarus.
German Chancellor Angela Merkel promised me that they would consider this problem at the level of the European Union. They are not even considering it. And even the contact person that she promised me, they are not even making contact. We will cope with this ourselves if Germany does not take them in. What else can we do? We have nowhere to go. But we should demand that the Germans take them in.
And we have more news coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. The leaders of China and the Association of Southeast Asian Nations agreed to deepen cooperation to help the region recover from the COVID-19 pandemic at a virtual summit held on Monday. During the online meeting, Chinese President Xi Jinping told the Asian leaders that Beijing will not bully its smaller regional neighbors amid rising tension over the South China Sea. On the other hand, Asia lauded China for its active cooperation in implementing key priorities identified in the Comprehensive Recovery Framework and its implementation plans, such as training health executives and professionals in health emergency response, supporting the COVID-19 Asian Response Fund, and expanding cooperation on COVID-19 vaccines. Both sides stressed the importance of economic integration to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and speed up the region's economic recovery.
Let us keep in mind the people's aspiration for a better life and put on our shoulders the mission of our times to safeguard peace and promote development. Let us work hand in hand to build on what has been achieved and work toward a closer China, Asean community with a shared future and make our region and the world even more prosperous and beautiful.
Now we address other topics. In the Netherlands, at least 30 people were arrested on the third night of protests against health restrictions due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Acts of violence occurred on Sunday night and took place in several Dutch towns, such as Enschede and Groningen, leading to about 30 arrests. According to police forces in Roosendaal, in the south of the European nation, demonstrators set fire to an elementary school, burned a car, and detonated pyrotechnics, leading to 15 arrests. In Groningen, in the northern Netherlands, the demonstration was peaceful, but at the end, some groups of people set off fireworks, smashed shop windows, gathered bicycles to set them on fire, and also destroyed a bus. Austria returned to a partial lockdown in the most dramatic COVID-19 restrictions seen in Western Europe for months, after a weekend of violence against virus measures that rocked several cities of the continent. The Alpine nation is also imposing a sweeping vaccine mandate from February 1st, one of the few places in the world to announce such a step so far. Shops, restaurants and festive markets were shuttered on Monday, while its 8.9 million people are not allowed to leave home, with few exceptions such as going to work, shopping for essentials and exercising, as virus cases are surging. Schools and kindergartens remain open, though parents have been asked to keep children at home when possible, despite there being no distance learning offered during the 3-week lockdown. And the Czech Republic, the government implemented new pandemic restrictions that specifically affected unvaccinated people amid a record surge of infections. Health Minister Adam Vodicek said that most unvaccinated people will no longer be allowed to attend public events, go to bars and restaurants, visit hairdressers, museums and others, or use hotels based on coronavirus test results. Only people who are vaccinated and those who have recovered from COVID-19 will remain eligible. Authorities said the goal of these measures is to motivate people to get vaccinated. Exceptions include teenagers aged 12 to 18, people whose medical condition doesn't allow vaccination, and people who have received at least one shot of a coronavirus vaccine. The announcement came last week after the Czech daily tally soared to more than 22,000 new cases last Tuesday.
Restrictions have to be done, but I'm not sure whether it is good to divide people between vaccinated and unvaccinated, and this is something which will divide our society and split the society into two parts, and I'm not sure about this is good.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm your host, Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.